Alright, welcome back everyone. 皆さん、おかえりなさい。今日は、16日目です。It is day 16. Got two major points from yesterday. That was, we have your ru and right? Verbs. Where we take the te form and add iru, in which iru is conjugated for the progressive, right? We had negative, positive, past, non-past. For progressive. And then basically our companions for noun, non-adjective, for negative, past, or plus or minus, which is represented by data and I wrote the wrong thing there. Where is, yes. And then jana, right? Jana. Janai. Which then this akata. And I keep writing plus signs where I'm supposed to write chisai tsu. I think so. I have to look at that again. But look at that again before we head in. Right, what's at this point? Right. And then that is combined. Do we combine? Okay. I guess we'll figure it out. Okay. And let's do our lesson. Okay. We're getting close to the... So, looking at these numbers, right? It seems like then N4 is going to... we're going to do the volume a little bit different. Probably spread it out over 2 months. If 2 months, let's say 3, right? 3 times, yeah, it'd be 2 months. So we do like 3 times 30, roughly speaking. That's 60 points a month, or no, not 60, 90 points a month. And then you spread it over 2 months, that would get you 180. This one is going to end in the first month because we're doing 5 right now. 5 times 30, 150. So it's going to end a little bit. And then there's going to be a period break between these stacks. So once we do the N5, we're going to do something, do practices. It's going to be a practice forward thing, to not like stack on all these things over and over again. I don't think grammar is treated in its workload as similarly as vocabulary. While vocabulary has a lot of dynamics when it comes to sentences, grammar structure has a lot of practice properties to it. And just so happens, I wonder if it's here. So there's a beta out for a conjugator. Yeah, or kaijugation? Kaiju, right? Kaiju, and then the second half of. So there's a beta that you can activate to do like some conjugation stuff. So that's probably what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a bit of practice. So I actually might not do any grammar lessons in Bunpro for the month of February. So the entire time we're going to be practicing N5 and then trying to complete the rest of the vocabulary, N5 vocabulary, where it's 11,000. So right now we're doing 20 a day. So 20 times 30 is 600, right? It would take 2 months to eclipse the N5 vocabulary, which I technically should have 100% coverage or some exposure, at least 100% exposure to these. So across the month of February, we'll continue to do vocabulary lessons. As a form of review, this is to catch up and overlap with ditching the burnout reviews for Wanikani, as a way to reinforce in a different way. So once we get through our grammar lessons, we will not be adding new grammar lessons until March. The reason why I'm alleviating that is because February is a game month. So I do want to cover some of that. So that's kind of how our schedule is. I think from then on, I will be taking a month practice in between each of the N groups. Especially after N4. So there will be 2 months for N4. So that's March and April. And then we'll take a May, like for May, the month of May will be a practice month. I genuinely am far more conscientious about output and practice being proportional to the amount of input. So, and being proportional is not the same as one-to-one. Like if you do lessons for a month, that doesn't mean practice is going to be a month long. It's more like the appropriate amount versus the versatility of the thing you're learning. And I think that's something that's not regulated, and it's also incredibly underplayed a lot of times by the overall internet community, where like practice has no benefits or have minimal benefits, etc. The reason, in my opinion, the TLDR of why that is the case is largely because the most practiced skill, ironically, or lack of a better term, the most practiced skill is input for the vast majority of people. Passive mass input. That is the nature of the internet. You go online and you get input. You don't necessarily engage intellectually with concepts that are new, or concepts that are difficult to understand, or concepts that are alien out of curiosity. Generally, you are bombarded by targeted content that reinforces all the things you already know, and you do not output them either. A great example of this would be when someone says, "Oh, I really like this game, and I watch a lot of videos on this game," and I would ask them, "Can you explain some of that to me in a cogent, thought out way that is practiced?" it would be like, oh, the game's mechanics are kind of awesome and they're kind of tight and, like this. And I'm like, I don't know like that. That's kind of the same nature that nowadays an efficacious way of learning language is through input only. And I agree and disagree at the same time. I agree that if you're chronically online and you're used to taking in information like that, it is probably very cathartic, comforting, and very efficient. If you're not used to that, like me, then I do other things. So I do spend a proportionate amount of time practicing because output is important to me. Output provides feedback and input for my future inputs. So it's a way to self-evaluate. People don't self-evaluate, in my opinion, who's chronically online. You're not like, there's not like a quiz at the end of every YouTube video you watch. There's a quiz at the end of a YouTube video when I watch it. So when I watch a video, I go into the video asking myself why I'm watching this video, what kind of information is to expect it, see what information there is in the video, and then at the end of the video, I think about the video and ask myself, where do I go from here using the information that's in the video? And this is instantaneous, or like it happens simultaneously as you're going. And that is a normal repetition for me. So right now when I'm using Bunpro, one of the most glaring weaknesses to me personally is that nearly everything in Bunpro is explicit. Outside of my favorite feature about Bunpro, which is the nuance hint system, that is really awesome. Outside of that, like, you're basically reading textbook things, right? Textbook things, and I need time to wield and use all that information. It's a great source. Like, Bunpro is an excellent source. It's explanatory. It really fits the mold of anyone who comes across it online. However, it is a teaching method, or it's more like a reference resource. And then the basic principle of applying memory is repetition, with a few exceptions. So my favorite parts are the few exceptions that don't rely on explicit instructions. So that's the part that I need to get ground into my brain. The nice thing, the lovely thing is there's cramming, there's practice tests, there's reading practice, there's hiragana, and then there's like a game, and they currently have like a new thing, right? That's in beta, which I can activate in the settings. So those are output practice. And output practice is also, in my opinion, a little deficient in people who are chronically online. Because when they output, they don't reflect on their output. They use output as a simultaneous gauge of whether they know something or not. Not understand it, or understand why they got it wrong, or refine or adapt the things they get wrong repeatedly. Usually it's a relying on brute force. It's like, oh, hopefully if I see it in a different context enough times, I will intuit it. So that's not how I roll. And it's a conflict in practice skills. Like, if I sit here and say, I'm going to do this again, it's like, oh, 5 seconds. All right, tomorrow, maybe I'll get it again and see that I get it right. That to me, personally, is incredibly unrewarding. It does not demonstrate that you've made the effort to, like, for myself, not another person. For myself, it doesn't demonstrate that I care enough to understand and wield that information. I get told this time and time again when someone says, well, that's a waste of time, or they infer that it's a waste of time or less efficient. And my thought about it is, it's also less rewarding, like, to me. So if I'm going to do something that is efficient and it's less rewarding, I would typically choose the more rewarding thing despite it being less efficient, if that were true. Historically, over my life, it's usually statistically negligible. By the time I get to a particular position, that other person also gets to that particular position. They encounter different problems than I do. Someone who's focused on efficiency and repetition and like sticking to whatever they do best, which is what the internet does, in my opinion. If you only input and you never think about the videos you watch, then mass input is your approach. It's the very efficient, preferable way. How quickly we get to the thing, in my opinion, in the long run, it's probably statistically negligent. The difference here is that person probably feels good about their method, and I feel good about my method. If I did what they did solely, I would probably adjust to it too. But for me, it's a personal choice. I don't want to sit there and think, oh, okay, well, I'll get it next time. Oh, man, if I don't get it here, then maybe somewhere else or some other thing will drill the thing into my brain. I'm like, all right, that sounds interesting. I mean, like, that's one way to go about information. In my opinion, though, whenever I'm talking to someone like this, it's very obvious that it's difficult to empathize or critique things. So there are differences between the two, but I usually don't highlight differences. One is the former lack critical thinking and problem solving skills. They may never need those skills to be happy. I do. I enjoy the vast majority of things that I do involves problem solving and critical thinking. So if you keep assuming that something on the internet or some exposure is going to solve your problems merely by seeing it and witnessing it, that sounds like it's a lifestyle choice you've made. When I talk to someone like that, it's very obvious when they present their cases. So whenever they try to argue or present a point of view, it's usually incredibly concise, specific, and also with that short-sighted, myopic, and rarely interesting personally. I can respect that they love those opinions, and I can also encourage them to continue pursuing those opinions. They would not be something I agree with, right? My passion is through the exchange of information. And oftentimes I feel whenever you're talking about this type of thing, when someone shares an opinion, it sounds more like an argument, or it sounds more like a convincing thing. And then someone would, that person would say, well, I'm not here to convince you. I'm like, but the nature of the way you talk is one-sided. So you're probably going to hear it quite often that it feels like you're trying to, even though you're just sharing your opinions, it feels like it's a one-sided argument. So it naturally ends up intrinsically sounding like a persuasive speech because the narrative is very linear. So I don't know if people ever realize that or not. That's kind of like spreading out information and not understanding the impact of that information. So like someone who can share their opinion and is consistently negative about something, to another person, that could be seen as, oh, this person is convinced it's a negative outcome, as opposed to that person saying, oh, I'm just sharing my opinions about, well, you're sharing your opinions about being strictly negative about something. That can come off as persuasion despite maybe not the intent. It's only clarified after, right? And I talk about my own personal biases as well. I get ahead and I say, as a disclaimer, this is my own personal narrative. I understand that there are many other narratives that one can paint with the same evidence. I would like to present the one that I prefer at the moment, right? as opposed to going out and say, well, this stuff's garbage because there's money involved. Like, okay, well, now we're talking within your narrative. And rarely is it when you talk to that person and you exchange an alternative narrative, that person would say, well, I'm just sharing my narrative. It's like, yeah, I know. You're barely actively listening to the other person with a different idea. Right? The only reason I'm sharing an opposing narrative or a differing narrative is because I heard your narrative. But it doesn't get reciprocated most of the time. And I think that's kind of paves, how does this relate to language learning? It's the same as it's very similar as someone who comes in and say, this is how you learn language. This is the right answer. This is what you do to get better at Japanese. That's kind of what I mean. Like, you integrate the information, but you don't wield it or troubleshoot it or output it. Generally speaking, an indicator of someone who uses information is someone who would know the pros and cons of immediately of that information that they're sharing. For myself, this would be an example of it. I've noticed that while this Bunpro is a great resource to reinforce and gain information, at the moment, the way I'm going about this is incredibly minimal in understanding how to output and use it and have practice in it. So I do feel like I'm under-practiced. So in order to remediate this, I must add additional time to practice those things. Which also means it gives me opportunity to form different types of corrections for my own behaviors. This is very different from someone who has an incredibly high propensity to simply tell people what the right answer is or suggests right answers without understanding the nature of the problem. I think that's the thing that I encounter the most, where someone believes that they're helping by saying the right answer or redundantly repeating the same information as though the mistake means that assuming that someone got the information incorrect. That's very different, at least for myself. Like, you can still get things wrong or go down a line of thinking if you're not thinking linearly. It has pros and cons. What's the con of not thinking linearly? There's no only one way of thinking it, right? Like, for example, yesterday there was a situation with na adjectives. And I'm like, yes, that's a na adjective. Like, that would be linear thinking. I'm like, but how did I get there? That was the difference. I don't think that is ever a priority for someone who believes that there's only one way of line of thinking, or very used to it anyways. Anyways, let's get into our lesson. Got lots of thoughts. Bunpro brings up lots and lots of thoughts about how the material is being explained. All right. Prohibitive. Is this like the end? Yeah, it's the end. Sentence ending particle. So na is classified as a sentence ending particle in Japanese when attached to the base dictionary form of a verb. Okay. It has the nuance of strongly demanding that someone not do something, right?
危険、触るな。
Why is that so loud? Wait, why is this so loud?
家の中で走るなとお母さんが言った。
Did it get just louder? Hold on. We need to lower the volume. Was it always this loud? Huh.
危険、触るな。
Okay. I don't know if it got louder all of a sudden.
家の中で走るなとお母さんが言った。
I think that's a relatively benign point. Not bad. Isolated. Okay. Dake. Adverbial particle. Right? Comes after verb, adjectives, and nouns, and then with the appropriate changes. Interesting. The noun doesn't require na. Or like a grouped variant with non-adjectives. Lately, most of the particles, most of like the related conventions group non-adjectives with noun, but this does not. Intriguing. Dake. Dake is used in Japanese in a similar way to only or just in English. The basic meaning of this word is that while there are and were several possibilities, only A is true was chosen. Okay. Is used by attaching it to the base dictionary form of any word. So the base dictionary form of any word with the exception of non-adjectives. Yes, so it's used by attaching anyway, except for non-adjectives, which requires na when being used adjectivally. Okay, so this is a great example of maybe this is a cultural difference or like a subcultural difference. Whenever someone says something like, oh, I did this, right? I did this. Or I'm only going to eat, for example, right here. I'm only going to eat. It's the choice that has been made out of other possibilities. Or in English, a lot of times when in NetSpeak, this is suggesting that it was the only option that could happen. So this is interesting because I often am unsure when it comes to the ambiguity of English, right? Like tonight I'm only going to eat, I won't drink anything. The idea is tonight I'm only going to eat as what the choice you've made out of many possibilities, out of the existing possibilities. Not necessarily there was only one possibility and it's only going to eat. Or this isn't the greatest example, but oftentimes when you're saying only, like, oh, I only did this. Is it you only did this because you chose out of many things to do this, or it is the only thing you can choose to do? And oftentimes those are like synonymous with each other now. Like I always do this. I'm like, so if you always do this, are you saying you're trying to always do this time out of times when you don't, which can happen in NetSpeak, or you always do this, so in every time it is the only option, right? And that requires clarification all the time. So I don't know if Japanese has the same deal, but it's quite interesting to think about.
今夜は食べるだけ、何も飲まない。
Okay.
「私はブロッコリーだけが嫌い。
Yeah, like for this example, I only dislike broccoli. That to me suggests that there are other vegetables that you've considered, but you happen to only you only dislike broccoli, right? The other way to think about this is the thing that you dislike has to be broccoli. Like, I only dislike broccoli. Like, so it's an affirmative, basically. That's assuming then you you may like the rest. So like you are more likely to like the rest. So you only dislike broccoli, meaning that everything else you like. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know if there's like a separate mechanic or a separate indicator of the converse is true situation. In NetSpeak, in English, you have to figure out what they mean. Like, oh, I'm only tired in the morning. Does that mean you're not tired outside of the morning? Or do you mean like you're only tired in the morning because it's the only thing you can confirm, and then the other parts of the day is like you're not saying anything about the other part of the day, which is kind of what this is saying. Dake to me is saying like, oh, there's everything else is possible, but right now this is the thing. This is the thing that is true. Oftentimes in NetSpeak, people would say it as though it is the only thing they can confirm, but they are also inferring that the opposite is true. So like, oh, someone say, oh, I only dislike broccoli. So the way they're saying it is, oh, it's the only, vegetables are good. All vegetables are good, but I only dislike broccoli. So it's inferring that the opposite is true. Basically, the only problem you have is broccoli, and then everything else is fine, like Brussels sprouts and asparagus and, all the other things that people may also dislike. So in NetSpeak, it's usually A and B, right? If it's A, if it's only A, then the rest of B is the opposite, which happens quite a lot. I think nowadays, though, it's kind of like being a little bit more common. Like if you say it's only A, that doesn't tell you anything about the rest. Like the rest is question mark. You don't know. But you're only saying what you know, and everything else is you don't know. Like you don't know about it. So you would ask about it. So when someone says you only dislike broccoli, I would ask, do you dislike or like other vegetables? And then they will respond with another NetSpeak ultimatum. They're like, oh yeah, I like the rest. And that's where you indicate, oh yeah, so they are referring that the opposite is true. It's not the greatest thing. It's kind of like saying, oh, I like all kinds of music. Right? And then when you ask, okay, so do you like rock music? And then the condition comes in. Like, well, then it's not all, it's some, and it keeps going. So for now, this is only, so it's only one case at the moment, which works pretty well with NetSpeak. When it becomes like everything or nothing at all, that's when it's going to get interesting, in my opinion. I don't know. Probably like Zen and stuff. Anyways, let's keep going.
あの人は有名なだけ。
Yeah, just famous. Yeah, that's a good one.
あの人は有名なだけ。
Yeah, and yume, and then we have a non-adjective, right? Here it is. Fame is all they have. That person is just famous, right? So this type of all, I don't know how well that holds up anymore. And I'm thinking about NetSpeak because when someone is learning Japanese and they happen to spend a lot of time net speaking, does this actually convey what this is saying up here? I don't actually know for sure. If I had to wager a guess, I like the way they talked about the basic meaning of while there are other several possibilities, because that's kind of how I feel about the internalization of not just Japanese culture, but like Chinese culture and whatnot. You're weighing all the possibilities when you say this. You're not saying what this is saying in English NetSpeak. Fame is all they have, among other things, right? So they feel, they think, or that person right now has fame. But there are other possibilities. It just happens that the thing that they can confirm is the fame.
このスープは辛いだけ。
Yeah, this soup is just spicy. I have just is somewhat of a subtle trigger word. Whenever someone says like, it's just that simple. You just have to play more. You just do this. You just do that. Just avoid this. I think English, I don't know how, it's difficult to know how long ago this was written or edited. But just no longer means something of like 5 years ago. I think this word has changed dramatically now in English. So it's it will be interesting to hear when someone who speaks English and they're like on the younger side and they spend most of their time online, what do they mean when they read, this soup is just spicy? Like, for example, what I would think this soup is just spicy is that that person is expressing that they can confirm it is spicy, while other people may not think it's spicy. Right, there are other possibilities. It might not be spicy or under other conditions or other people. When someone says this soup is just spicy, at least in my opinion, in NetSpeak, this is assertive. Right? They already said a lot with assertive and in English, this is assertive. So they're telling you what is true. Like, this soup is just spicy, as in, it's not the soup is spicy, as in you think it's spicy. It's just spicy. So it's being used as an emphasis. And I don't know that's what I don't think that's what dake means in Japanese. So this can be kind of like misinterpreted in a way because of the way words like just, all, only has changed over the years. Will be interesting. Due to non-adjectives being able to be used as either a noun or an adjective, the meaning of a sentence. It could be it lacks other qualities like flavor. Yeah, all other possibilities. So it's weighing all the other possibilities. So you're supposed to think of it as, oh, like for the Japanese side of things. My impression is that when you say dake, it means that you're confirming something that you think is true. However, it also means it doesn't say anything about anything else. Like, it could lack things, it could have other things as well in the realm of possibilities. However, when someone is like speaking online, when they say often, I'm going to say 6 out of 10 times, like more than 50% of the time, when someone says this soup is just spicy, they literally mean that's the only quality it has. Like that's the only quality that's important to them, and that's the only quality they want to focus on. So whenever you speak to them, it's like, well, it could be sour too. And they're like, it's just spicy, man. Right? Or like, it's just not that deep. Like, it's literally famous. That's like the classic net speak that I think about. And then when people use just, it's just that simple. I would say 6 out of 10 times they mean it only has that quality, not that it can have any or lack or however any other possibilities. There are no other possibilities. It's always this. And that bleeds into behavioral responses too. Like when someone says, oh, this game is dog water, it's just dog water. And I'm like, well, okay. So you step back and you kind of walk away, or you either agree with him. And I don't think that's what dake means here. So my often my brainstorming is, okay, so this is going to be used as the translational equivalence of this. And for me, I'm thinking it's not, which is great that they did mention this here. I think this sentence really does breathe a lot of life into it. The basic meaning of this word is that while there are or were several possibilities, only A is true or was chosen. I think that's really clever of them of saying that. I'm not sure how much they take their time on wording these, but it's quite I like the wording here. Not that it will be very important to other people. Like it's not going to be clear if when you're reading this, the vast majority of people would see this, right? Or think of this. Okay, the meaning of a sentence will be different depending on whether dake is used with the noun form or the adjective form. Okay.
私の彼女は綺麗なだけです。
Interesting. Okay, so there is a distinction. Interesting. So when it's being used, this answers, I haven't read the whole thing, but this actually answers some of the questions. There is a flip on dake. Like this up here is different from down here. Interesting.
富士山は綺麗だけじゃない。
And then you negate it to suggest that there are other distinguishing features. Intriguing. My girlfriend is beauty is not all there is. But you're using a negation. But if you don't use a negation, it would be beauty is all there is versus just. Basically, this difference just highlights whether something is being discussed in a measurable way, an adjective, or in an immeasurable way, a noun. I see. Huh. So, okay, so the noun, okay. The noun is immeasurable. If it's being used as a noun. I see. And it's kind of hard to It almost feels like it's the opposite. But I kind of see it. Okay, so the just is still up here, right? It's still weighing a measurable way, and then the noun is immeasurable. So it's using the just. So both of these would be just. In net speak, both of these would be just. So as for Mount Fuji, beauty, beauty is, this is kind of hard to phrase actually, now that I think about it. I can kind of see why they use that English now that I think about it. Like, beauty is all there is also just. So they do have a distinction, but just it's like for non-adjective. Here's this. So here's the noun, just like a straight up noun, right? And so this might be referring, this might also, it doesn't say anything about nouns versus adjectives versus a verb, like what it's implying. Is it implying measurability or immeasurability? That's a great way to think about it. The thing that I was ranting about was about measurability and immeasurability when it comes to like possibilities. I guess we're gonna end up having to fill out these things. Well, let me look at other examples. Right, only one person. Sore, yeah. Saka. I see. Right, watashi. And then this is adjective, adjective. So this would have elements of measurability. Makes sense for, okay. Right, how beautiful. And then Tadnai is special, actually. So this is being used as only. Interesting. Okay, I kind of get a feel of it. Intriguing. I mean, a thing that would be really scary is actually translating these. I don't know if, how often people think about, doing the reverse, but I feel like trying to translate these for a grammar text sounds like an incredibly underestimated difficult task. Anyways, all right, let's go. Dore, like which of 3 or more? So do they give us the example of 2 or less? Dore follows a noun, right? And dono precedes a noun. Yes. Okay, I'm on board with that. Noun plus wa plus dore, right? And then dore plus ga plus verb, sure, right? That's coming after, right? So it would be, we're talking about this position. Dore ga adjective, yes. Na, right? Na adjective plus dot, right? Because this can stand alone, right? And then noun, right? And then this needs to show its existence or establish the noun, which is very similar. Non-adjectives and nouns grouped together. And yes, you can pivot because of the nature of the verb. And then polite would be should... Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The polite conjugation of the verb. And then they all normalize to des, including the adjective. In order to make it, I guess, this operates as a polite function, as opposed to like needing to function two different ways. Dore is from the same family, right? The osoado. These words are right. Unlike the other three, which all point to a specific thing, words starting with do are designed, right, to something of the unknown, and this is inquiring three or more objects, or three or more things.
どれが飛びますか?
Right?
どれが新しいですか?
Mm-hmm.
どれが綺麗ですか?
Mm-hmm.
どれが弟ですか?
So only... Okay, so... Dono is a separate point. So we're not doing dono until later. From these examples... Wait. Hold up. Oh, yeah. These are all after. The topic is already inferred here. We already have an inference of topic. From these examples, we can see that the particle ga is often used with dore, especially when preceding questions. However, when dore follows a noun, wa will be used. Yeah. Oh, also interesting. Oh no. When it's following, yeah. When it's following, that's fine. Yeah.
あなたの車はどれ?
When there are only two choices to select between. Oh, right. Dochira. That's right. Yeah, and dochi. Plus no for the nominalizer or the noun. Will be used instead of dore. This is a habit that has become part of the language over time. It was not originally how these words were used. Yeah.
どちらのケーキを食べますか? どっちのテストが難しい?
Okay. That explains that. Honestly, I didn't think it was that straightforward when I was reading those Duolingo examples. Yeah, we're okay with these. So this is the remaining of the Kosoado family. Okay. And then doko. Okay, so we're doing the doko, which would line up with the dore. Okay.
明日はどこに行く?
Mm-hmm.
牛乳はどこにありますか?
It doesn't have... it doesn't make note of a potential particle switch at all, so that's interesting. So I'm likely to think that it is not a thing yet, or it could be a thing. So like wa and ni instead of e, right? So like ni versus e, and then wa versus ga. So the idea is that's what I'm gonna settle on until any other situation comes up. Ashin doko should not be confused with dochi. A similar word which is also sometimes translated as where. Dochi focuses more on the direction, that is yes. So that's probably where they would save the e. The e to ni contrast, possibly. Focus more on the direction that one is or going, where a doko focus purely on which place. So since doko focuses on which place, ni would be more frequent. So there is a chance you can probably still make a comment about dochi with e as opposed to dochi ni. We'll see. I mean, sometime down the line. And then we still have the osoado of those. Dono. Okay. They did manage to include in the group. I'm curious if they blocked the groups based on probably. Still kind of curious. Which of the three or more, like what kind? Yeah, right. It precedes a noun. Right. A demonstrative. Wait, like what type of demonstrative? Oh, that's a comma. Never mind. Yeah, this acts more like a demonstrative. Dore follows a noun. So dono is classified as a pre-noun adjectival in Japanese. There are a special type of word that do not conjugate, which means I need to keep track of that. Which means that they will always appear in the same form. Dono comes from the same family of words as the right. So, okay.
どの飲み物がいい?
Mm-hmm.
どの色でもいいよ.
Literally even any of whichever color. Yeah, whichever color is good. Oh yeah, and then there's mo. So demo even any of. I can see why they wrote even any. Although I think whichever color is good is. That's how I would read this. I get the even any, trying to accommodate the demo. In these examples, we can see that dono may be used to ask a question, or it may also be used in a similar way to whatever or whichever in English. Yeah. Caution, dono is only used when there are three or more possible, and then dochi no, or dochira, dochira no. I don't know how often I've seen dochira. Will be used when there are only two possible choices, right? So, aka ka ao, dochi ga ii? Dono iro ga suki? In the first example, the speaker is asking specifically about two options, red or blue, so dochi will be used. However, in the second example, since the answer could be any color, dono will be. Okay, all right. Well, today we got form changing things for the most part. Oh wait, just kidding. Oh yeah.
Ikuna.
So that's kind of a nice respite, I suppose. So right now, restrictive. So they're using the word restrictive. Probably the other word would be non-exhaustive. Or no, exhaustive. It would be probably like exhaustive versus restrictive. Or saying something that's measurable and immeasurable. So restrictive would be something immeasurable, like sort of, because it's specifically saying this is the only thing, right? And then when it's exhaustive or potentially measurable, it would be just, is what they're using. And my rant already suggests to me that these are no longer distinctions in English NetSpeak. It is difficult to distinguish which one they mean anymore because they're synonymous with each other. So you have to learn by context what it is. So only and just, for me, still sounds like the way they discussed it. So when you say just, it means there are other possibilities. And when you say only, it's affirmatively confirming something that is lacking, like there's no other quality other than that. In NetSpeak, only and just are synonymous. They include all the use cases, so they no longer distinguish from each other. Kind of like literally. Literally is both literally and figuratively. And that makes, in my opinion, that makes a really... It makes it quite interesting how you would be able to use English to communicate what another language means simply by words, like translations. Like only one person would suggest to me this immediately. I didn't have to look at restrictive. However, if someone else read this, there isn't just that possibility. So I see only one person as only one person. However, another person may see it as just one person. So then it could be like, whatever, it's dake. It still gets you the right answer. And I mean, like, this stuff is not technically mechanically important in a way, so to speak. Like, if you're concerned, if you're specifically just concerned about getting the right answer, which a lot of people study languages for that reason, because output is diminished and they don't get reward from output most of the time. It's more like the input. It's just a means to an end, as opposed to it's the only means to an end, right? Although some people would say it's the only means to an end, as opposed to it's just a means to an end. It's so interesting now. I think I have a new layer of English to mess around with. The contrast between only and just. When someone says, this is just the way I learn Japanese, they actually, in English, 60% of the time or more, they mean it's the only way I learn Japanese. Not just the way I learn Japanese. Just would imply that this person is open to other suggestions and other things. Right now, this happens to be the way they're doing it, but they are open to it. When they say, I only learn Japanese this way, it's supposed to be somewhat immeasurable. As in, like, okay, well, that's really strong, that's good, alright, good for you. Good luck. Situation. Now it means both. So, whenever it says, oh, that's just the way I learn Japanese, and I'm like, okay. That I end there most of the time. Whenever someone like use a trigger word like just, only, always, never, I have to hedge my bets. Like ask them, have you considered other alternatives? When someone says, oh, this is just the way I am, it's like, have you considered that it might not be the only qualities you have? Or maybe, or I just suck at Japanese. Because have you noticed if you suck at other languages or you are better at other languages, right? Lacking an existing quality of other things, right? Fun times. I think learning Japanese in this way, to me, I would love to think that when someone is learning Japanese, it would allow them to reflect on their English, to ask themselves, how is English being used when you're talking online? And I can assure you, before I started learning English and Japanese in the context of translational methods, right? I have already had these suspicions about NetSpeak, and understanding these suspicions, like why is it important to understand these things? It makes communicating with specific groups of people far more efficacious, in my opinion. It allows you to, like, for lack of a more sinister word, it allows you to manipulate the situation and lead the situation if you require it. Like if you need to convey an idea, the idea is it's often more encouraged to convey it in the framework that the person you're talking to. So if someone's telling you that's just what I like, when they say that's just what I like, they don't necessarily, most of the time, they don't mean try to ask them and convince them that there are other things that they would like. They really generally often mean that it's the only thing they like and they don't kind of want to hear anything else. As in, they only like this thing. So depending on how hard you push that or how well you push that, and you're wondering, like, what in NetSpeak, when is it when they're more open to when are they more open to other things? They would say, I like this, as opposed to I just like this. So that's the new default. It's not the difference between I only like this, right? Oops. I only like this. Oh no. Like between these two, it's more like I like this. That means they have a possibility of liking something else that you can suggest. Or when they say I just like this, they really do mean only, for the most part. You can gamble though. There's still a possibility. Which and then
どれがいいですか?
どれがいいですか? Oh, James, have you watched the movie Rental Family? I just recently watched. Yesterday I made some time to watch Rental Family. It's a really wonderful thing that's related to this whole learning Japanese situation, and then cultural dissonance and cultural assimilation and exchange. So specifically American English culture, American Japanese culture. Pretty lovely movie that shows the interaction of a foreigner with Japanese culture, with a splash of a lot of modern life things. And I am a sucker for modern life. Rental Family really hits that modern life in the Japanese context through the lens of a foreigner. Although I don't feel like the stuff that they showed about the Japanese culture is foreign to someone who, or it's less foreign to someone who grew up in a Chinese household, because those things are very much real. It is nice to see them touch upon it through different lenses.
どこに行きますか?
Right, because it's a specific place, and then
どの寿司屋がいいですか?
Okie dokie. Let's move on to our vocabulary. Now we're gonna go a bit quicker here. I really overextended yesterday. Kinda tired. Toru. Toru, not Toru. Toru. Toru is fine. Toru, record audio or video. Audio. Interesting. Hiru. Right. It's fine. And lunch. Yes. In lunch. Tsukeru. Tsukeru is fine. Right. Fuyu. Okay. Utau. 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 And then versus utau. Utau versus utau. Karaoke. Yep. Okay. Okashi. Okay. America. America. Kutsu. Kutsu. Hajimaru. Hajimaru. Right? This is the intransitive start. So, 買い物、買い物。西、西。風、manner. Manner is a good flex for kaze. And then, yeah, there's the flex in the extra character in cold, in or influenza, kaze. I actually think we have an entry for kaze already. For not win. I think that was an earlier entry. Yep. Shower, yeah, shower, shower を浴びます。浴びる。Right. シャワーを浴びる。
シャワーを浴びる。
A special phrase. They're connected together. Alright, 豚肉。豚肉。秋。Yep. Yeah. 野菜。野菜。versus 野菜。Which is a good one because 野菜 is actually I would have to double check. Yasai is cheap. Yasai is vegetable. Oh, I think they might actually both be yasai. Let's find out because I'm that would be an interesting thing that I have not considered. Oh no, sorry, yasui. Sorry, I'm thinking of something else. How many? There's another yasai. Oh no, I'm thinking about yasui. Actually, hold up, is yasui Odaka? There are multiple yasuis, but let's look at this one is what I'm thinking. Oh, okay. This is, yeah, a Nakadaka. What about this one? That's Nakadaka as well. Anyways. Imi. Great. Meaning, significance. I use it quite a lot. Abunai. As opposed to what do they keep using? Kiken. And then Nichiyobi. Alright. Here we go. Oh, right off the bat. Record.
ビデオを撮る。
今日のお昼は何？
Nice. Even the ohiru for the abbreviation.
クーラーをつける。
Cooler. Really? Huh.
私は冬が大好きです。
It doesn't help that whenever I hear cooler, I think of like box. I don't think of it AC. So that's interesting. I mean, you know, as opposed to aircon, right? Yeah, aircon. Interesting. Cooler. Oops. I missed the
歌を歌う。
歌を歌う。
友達とカラオケに行く。
Okay. Oh. Wait, candy. Oh, right.
お菓子を食べてもいい？
Immediately when I was like, ame? Ne?
彼女はアメリカ出身だ。
靴を履く。
Oh, okay. Okay.
テレビが始まる。
shopping. Which one was... Which one was considered shopping? How can you contextualize? Oh.
車で買い物に行く。
西の方へ行く。
風が弱い。
Oh no. Wait. I don't know how to spell. Just like that. Whoops. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I must have typed O
朝にシャワーを浴びる。
as opposed to abiru.
私は豚肉が大好きだ。
今は秋です。
馬は野菜を食べます。
この文の意味がわかりません。
この地域は危ないです。
地域。
明日は日曜日です。
Alright. Hooray. Alright. Try to keep this on the short side. 137. That's kind of on the high side. Alright. Grammar time. Oh, using ask. Yeah, Kiku for ask. Okay, hold up. So we're gonna use... Oh, it's standard though. Does that mean we're doing... I don't... Do I need to, like, can I use... Does that mean the quotation is standard? Oh, wait. Oh, it doesn't take the other one? Okay, okay. Because of, like, writing formalities and stuff. Fair enough. Okie dokie.
Rock を時々聞く。ロックを時々聞きます。
That was yesterday. Polite? I thought that was okay. Oh, no, wait. I guess no? Oh, no, wait. What? I don't need a...
それは昨日でした。
let me think about this. Subject mark. Oh, right, because we're conjugating da and this. Oh, that's doing the pronoun thing or the inference thing. Negative past standard.
"私の犬は強くなかったです。
猫はかわいい。猫はかわいいです。
私の家が Do you oh
私の家が好きですか？
sure 公園で遊ぶ went oh oh no wait who? Oh no, wrong ending. I don't know what the oh no. Oh no, wait, in order to. Oh, I didn't read the rest. To go in order to play. Wait, I went to play. So we're doing standard past oh no. What is passive EQ? Or no. What's the passive no, it's EQ. So how do you EQ pass? It's a coup, right? It's not an exception. EQ is not an exception to pass. So then it would be like two verb. Ah, wait, do I need to? I don't think I need to conjugate. Oh no. It,
公園へ遊びに行った。
Oh, yeah, that's the note I wrote to myself a little bit ago about the E. So all of that is fine, and I needed to confirm if it was irregular or not. Iku was irregular in the past standard. Yoko ni iku objective feeling desho? No ga suki?
旅行に行くのが好きでしょ
Yeah. 行くのが好きでしょ? どこね? Non-pass standard. I think I need a... Nope. Wait, I don't... Wait.
冷蔵庫がある台所。
It's already a noun. I don't need to nominalize it. Different story.
家へ帰る
What? It is not be... Oh. Oh.
牛肉じゃないです。
たくさん勉強ね。Who study? Oh, okay, hold up. Oh no. How do I do the ending to this is from yesterday, right? Yesterday's thing was like I think you converted to oh no, suru.
たくさん勉強した生徒
I forgot what this is called. What did they call this? It's like a relative clause or something? Yeah, a relative clause.
これは誰のパソコンですか？
Okay.
先生はおはようって言った。
彼は静かだ。彼は静かです。
Oh. Wait, I dislike. Oh, oops. Oh no, I was thinking of something else.
「嫌いな色はありません」
What?
メアリーは日本に帰った。メアリーは日本に帰りました。
晩ご飯が好きではなかった。
So they defaulted to Dewa. How do I differentiate between the two again? Why did they show? Oh, because they said standard. Oh no, wait, they both are fine. Oh, hold up. Oh, semi-polite. Okay. Interesting. So they prioritize that. Okay. Heck. Hold up. So are you irregular? Oh no. Wait. What? Edu is probably going to be right. So it. Oh, I added God. I don't need God. 寝ていません。
今、兄は寝ていません。
Alright. Can we get... Alright. Hmm. 117.
"あの寺の名前を教えてください。
あなたは野菜が嫌いですか？
私たちは小さいアパートから一軒家へ引っ越しました。
先生、暑いからこまめに飲み物を飲みましょ
Hmm.
ご飯を食べたいです。
Greenery? 緑?
う。ここには緑がたくさんある。
ピアノを習う。
私は大学を卒業した後に海外へ行くつもりだ。
海外、つもりだ。
大きな台所があるアパートに引っ越しをする。
この教室は広い。
あなたの町より私の町を、片方方が進行が多い。
あなたが着ている洋服のブランドを教えてください。
薬を飲んだので熱が下がりました。
この冬は北海道に行きます。
僕はお風呂の掃除をするのが嫌いです。
この電気は壊れているんです。
すべての色の中でどれが一番好きですか？
このベッドは古いです。
この鉛筆は赤色です。
What the deep? Oh no, it's just like they're using like 太い yeah?
私の父の声はとても太い。
太い yeah, very deep. Cool. Okay. かわいい財布を買う
かわいい財布を買う。
科学が全くわからない。
わからない。
ここは建物の外だ。
ケイスケ、あのおじさんは誰？大輝。僕のおじだよ。
おじ。
彼は強いです。
果物の収穫が終わってから友達とクラブに行く予定だ。
急いでそこに行きます。
急いで。Oh no. What constitutes distance? Maybe like 遠い親戚遠い親戚とは親族の上組織そう funeral interesting 組織の時しかませんかSomething I missed there for now.
たくさんのカフェがある山は登山客に人気です。
私はここの国では外国人だ。
体重計に乗るのが嫌いです。
うん。行きの新幹線は、2番線ホームです。Fair enough. Open. What type of open are we talking about? 開く。
壁に穴が開く。
私の社員の番号は8765だ。
Man, I was right. That number though.
家に冷蔵庫が2台ある。
もう閉園の時間なので出口に向かった方がいい。
彼は今週引っ越します。
Okay, so now it's kinda not that loud. Before, during the review, fine. Oh, you can't alter it as you're going. Okay, that's fine. It's a different easy.
簡単な課題より難しい課題の方がやりがいがある。
Hmm. Whoops. Ooh, okay. Hold up. Still have. Oh, I'm
コ
out
ー
of
チが
here.
選手に、君にはまだチャンスがある。
Okay. Do. Hold up. 家族やパートナーのやりたくない仕事も
家族やパートナーのためやりたくない仕事もするつもりだ。
Okay, here you go. Just はい。
そのペン使ってもいい？うん。はい、どうぞ。
どうぞ。Fair enough.
僕の誕生日と父の誕生日は同じ日です。
Absolutely no way. all I can think about is like mochiron, something like that. Absolutely no way. So something that probably conjugates, or since this is a negative. Absolutely. Driving. Front, 食べられない。I have no idea. Absolutely no way. No. Hold up. How about just kidding. Gee. I have no idea. An intensifier. I don't know if an intensifier works. Maybe like I'm thinking Amari, but I don't know. So interesting. So Totemo was the thing, but I was thinking more Amari. Interesting. Oh, there, Jazz. I was supposed to stick with that intensifier.
僕はこの会社の社長の秘書だ。
Make friends.
友達を作りたい。
Intriguing. I didn't take it to be literal, but or like I didn't think it was tsukuru or to make friends. More like a maybe like something special.
このタクシーはどこの会社のですか？
あなたにとって日本語の勉強は難しいですか？
この遊園地が開くのは午前9時で、閉まるのは午後10時だ。
この動物園にはたくさんの動物がいます。
子供、下がスケスケの橋を渡るのは怖いよ。
Staka Sketsuke. What the heck is Sketsuke? Oh, interesting. Hmm.
今年の夏休みは長いです。
友達に、私の消しゴムを勝手に使わないでください。
明日は学校です。
動物園でパンダの親子を観察する。
Oops.
私は海よりプールの方が好きです。プールは波がないからです。
I immediately thought komida. Komida kind of sounds like a Japanese word, but comida in Spanish. And now I'm stuck on komida.
私の好きな食べ物はうどんです。
私は日本へ観光をしに行くつもりです。
文法を学ぶ。
パソコンを買う。
僕は女の人が苦手だ。
良い大学へ行きたいので勉強を頑張ります。
Mixing up words is funny when you're multilingual, yeah. Whenever I think about food, I think of komida. Like I actually don't. Do I use food? When I think of food, I think of rice. Because well, it's not because of Japanese, but gohan is food as well. But in Chinese, it's rice. So like it's the same word for rice. So boong is food. So oftentimes whenever the English word food comes up, I think of rice, or I think of comida, which is Spanish for food, because I immediately think of comer as opposed to eat. Eat is such a weird word. And then it's second to taberu. But sit is closer to Cantonese because of Fujianese accent, or like the Fujianese dialect. So eating is really weird. I think I've said eat arguably potentially less in English than eating in other languages. Funny thought, huh? Maybe we associate some things with certain language over other languages. It's large for me. It's quite largely due to frequency. It can be explained fairly well to frequency. I was trying to think of another example. I can't think of another example. Food is very important, so food is incredibly universal. It might even be more emphasized than my American upbringing, right? Born in the United States, food can sometimes be secondary, and then Chinese household, food is central. It's central culturally. And then like Spanish, whenever I interact with Spanish, it deals with food occasions. Wait, but you can think of another word we use, particularly as speaking about money. Another word, particularly for speaking about money. Something. I mean, my salary is low. We're not going with cheap, that's for sure. My salary is low. Looking for an adjective? Low. Ay, ay, ay. Hmm. Food means differently in different places. Yeah, that's like saying everyone thinks differently. Cliche terminating. You know someone from Pakistan that they tell me that it's a big deal to know not only how to cook, but how to cook very well. Fair enough. That first statement's a little weird. I mean, everything is everything. But the Pakistan example is pretty interesting. My salary is low. I mean, there's yeah, see?
私の給料は安い。
Wow. Okay. That's certainly not quite what I was thinking. Interesting. I ruled out Yasi because of what it is. So we went all the way back to Yasi. Dang. What the bad? The heck? Is bad. It's not that. You think that your tongue is not sensitive enough to know when a food is very good, so it's not good enough, but maybe they have strong tongues? If I had to say anything about taste buds, generally taste does not vary that substantially in like statistically. Obviously you can like environmentally destroy your taste buds and stuff, but I don't necessarily think that the vast majority of people vary in sensitivity that much. I think that is usually the general consensus. The number of super tasters in the world, like biologically, is far less than the average person. So I'm pretty sure it's more of a matter of taste. Like whether someone has a strong tongue or not. Typically super tasters don't have excellent quote unquote taste in like goodness. Super tasters can taste a lot of different things, but as taste goes up, like a superhero, yeah, it's the term that they use. It's like the vernacular or the colloquial. I'm not sure if they changed it. Super tasters is not neither good or a bad thing, because a lot of times super tasters also do not taste a lot of things. Like they don't have an appreciation for a lot of things because of their sensitivity. So if you're saying that sensitivity correlates with the prospect of how good food is, that's usually not corollary. There's no it's not a correlation. Oftentimes super tasters tend to be picky, and that means that they know less about the diversity of food. And then the whole super taster thing is there are people who are representative of sensitive taste, but they are also statistically anomalous, as in like they have super tasting and they made it a profession. That is very rare. So oftentimes people who have more sensitive taste, they tend to have less foods. So they would, in my opinion, behaviorally be more unlikely to have a sense of good taste in food because they would eat less of things, right? Like bitterness, sugar, or like sweetness, sourness, and whatnot. It's not entirely clear that they would be correlating. So if you have null taste, that might, like, if you have less sensitive taste, that also means that you might like spicy foods. A super taster may not like spicy foods or appreciate spicy foods because of their sensitivity. That kind of thing. Give or take. So, in fact, I would probably say, unless you're saying strong tongues as in they're tolerant, I would say, like, for example, Pakistani, or maybe like Sichuan, right? Sichuan region of China, you might call them strong tongues, but they might actually have the opposite. They're very tolerant to, so they have less sensitive taste and therefore have a richer depth in food. It's kind of an interesting theory. I'm actually kind of curious how much converging evidence there is. Like, the lack of taste often results in behavior that wants to elicit taste. Kind of calls for a balance. You don't have to want to sense everything. You like to sense enough to enjoy life. Exactly. So what's good and what's not very good is the sense of enjoying life, right? And here's one that would be really, I'll give you a biological example. A biological example of how sensitivity makes one not enjoy something. Cilantro. I absolutely love cilantro. But it's not because I'm a super taster or like I have an elegant, refined palate. It's because this doesn't taste like soap. And for a person who's sensitive to that compound, like they have better tongues, if they have super taster, it would taste like soap. But cilantro has other properties that taste really nice and fragrant and floral, but most people, like people who are sensitive to the compound that's in cilantro, they would not eat cilantro. That would be a great example. So yeah, you take what you have. The thing that I would like to say is, as opposed to desire, there are enough in the world that makes you feel like you're very good with food, then the likelihood that you're not good with food, which is great, because on average, the person can spend, an average person, or even a super taster, can spend their entire lifetime experiencing food, and it would be enough for a lifetime. And that is kind of like really nice to think about. It's like a poetic thing to think about. So whether you're good with food or not good with food, biologically speaking, and like maybe serendipitously, hopefully, like when you have accessibility to food, you can spend a lifetime experiencing food. Even if you have a poorly developed, maybe slightly unlucky palate, it's good, at least in my opinion, it's very romantic and possibly a little naive to assure other people that there's enough food in the world, like in a way, culinarily, like culinary arts, that you can spend a lifetime doing it. So you're not really, quote unquote, missing out in a way. At least that's how I want people to think about what I'm saying. Statistically, yes, being average and above will give you a lifetime of enjoying food. It might not be the same food as other people who think it's fancier, or like people vary, right? Like you said, food means differently in different places. That's also a consequence of their ability to taste specific things and intensities and whatnot. The neat thing is, yeah, go spend your entire life exploring food and you'll still be able to have a sense of enjoyment in life, because it doesn't really end with that single meal that you eat that you try to keep consistent each day. But you can choose to do that, obviously. It's interesting. In my background, the place in the United States where I grow up, they are like Irish and Germanish, and I'm not suggesting that this is true for everything, but typically the palate for like Irish and Germanish diets like go towards a particular direction, and then for me in the household it's like a night and day. So oftentimes being exposed to the thing is kind of what makes food so interesting. Food is a visceral experience, so when you explore something unknown to you, it can often feel like you lack taste, right? You lack understanding of something. But generally speaking, it's a human experience. You genuinely psychologically will feel like you're out of your depth or you're lacking in taste when you have a lack of experience. And the nice thing about life is it's no short on experiences, and that certainly includes eating things. Yeah, you like the idea of abundance, not as an invite to consume a lot, but as a reminder that there's a lot of things in the world to find. Exactly. The last thing you want to, at least, I'm not saying you feel this way, but at least the thing is, I don't like to encourage people to sit there and phrase in a way that their potential for enjoyment is limited, right? And that's not how we roll. Well, at least that's not how I roll. So when someone ever says like, oh, well, I can't appreciate this because I'm just like this. We were just talking about the word just today in Japanese. I'm like, nah, you got plenty of abilities and potential to enjoy the rest of life. Don't write yourself out yet, especially food. I'm double down in culture when it comes to food. So if someone says like, I like plain bread, well, there's a lot of bread in the world, mister. Let's go try them out. Like, I like non-sugary, non-bitter, balanced things. Well, there are a lot of ways to balance food. Let's go and find them out. I kid you not, I actually had this discussion with someone who their favorite thing to eat is like plain cardboard. Like their preference is straight up cardboard. Like salt and pepper is too seasoning is too dramatic for this person. But slowly and surely there are things that they found that are enjoyable despite being incredibly restrictive. This person cannot handle the idea of something that's wet and saucy. He's such a goober. Perhaps in another 10 years we'll revisit his aversion to juicy things. Like wet things. Wet things are not a thing. I think if I were to be in his shoes, he would prefer to eat like stale, white, unseasoned, like yeast-living bread than eating like garlic bread. He's still enjoying it though. Like it took a while. I was conversing with this person for some time. It's you keep asking the person like, hey, if you're going to the grocery store and you're buying your own groceries, get excited. Pick something. At least pick like one wild card while you're still munching on your 100% whole wheat bread, just plain whole wheat bread as your major source of starch. Maybe we as people can find a way to make anything delicious. I mean, hear me out, Jazz. Like, not only do we think that we as people can find a way to make anything delicious, one of the things about technology, science, right? Science technology is, I know you're not resonating with this particularly, but when it comes to convenience foods like the United States, for example, not only did people find a way to make anything delicious, one of the craziest outcomes of the modern age of convenience foods is that the foods have become hyper palatable. So like that hyper processing, not only did food become made like anything delicious, science and technology has made it to the point where it's actually detrimental for hyperconsumption of foods that aren't delicious at first, but now they're made delicious. Like think about the nature of hyper processed foods. You're taking and maximizing ingredients that are not that great, right? You know, you keep thinking like, can we make anything delicious? Well, in technology, when it comes to food, humans are able to make things that are not good for you delicious, right? Like that frozen patty that comes from like that have like 60 different, you know, preservatives or gone through freeze thaw cycles and mince and stuff, it is still delicious. And that's kind of one of the craziest things about humans, right? Where there's a will, there's a way in some shape or form. Obviously, we need to strike the balance between things. It's interesting to think about it this way. Imagine if food is slightly not delicious. And what are those things? Oh, that's right. They're healthy foods. Balance, right? There's the balance. So, we're living in a modern age of hyper palatable foods versus like high quality foods. So like the difference between high quality food, oftentimes this is a stereotype or generalization, the high quality foods are things that are not as hyper palatable as hyper palatable foods, which is highly processed. However, there's a use case for those. High quality foods, like, I don't know, you can use buzzwords like organic and natural. They have accessibility problems. So like really quote unquote delicious foods are more like really balanced foods because they take time to grow and meticulous things and whatnot. But technology has made it so that even in worse situations, poor situations, and like cost situations or quality like ingredients that aren't that great, there are ways to make it delicious, right? And hyper processed foods is a great example. People not only have found ways to make anything delicious, I think they nearly overcompensated by, like, at this point in certain countries like the United States have gone so far in the other end that a balance of the food's qualities, like being slightly not delicious and whatnot, the hyper palatability of convenience foods have made it so that now everything has to be incredibly delicious all the time, which is interesting because if you think about certain things that aren't necessarily delicious, they're often a balance of things, right? Like bitterness with your saltiness, sourness with your sweetness. That's not strictly delicious. It's like if it was strictly delicious, a lot of times the unit for flavor, like the unit for like this is like giving a unit to flavors. Yeah, the extent would be something incredibly hyperpalatable. Hyperpalatable would mean that it is incredibly sugary, it's incredibly fatty, right? These are like elements of biological deliciousness, but it's also often balanced out by other sensory tastes that wouldn't necessarily be biologically coordinated with being delicious. And that's kind of, I'm using a more biological perspective on this. Something that's high in calorie and calorie dense would be a biological reason for it to be delicious, because we're meat bags that burn calories. However, now we've come to psychologically appreciate things that are sour, bitter, and so on. And there are rhymes and reasons for this. Like, for example, umami, which is like that savoriness that the Japanese, I forgot the person's name, that isolated, which then became MSG. I think the company is still around. Akimoto, ne? Maybe. It's something like that. They still make MSG, and that essence occurs in the food we prep. So like, for example, when you sear a steak, right, and creates the Maillard effect, which is what people funnily drop all the time, that's actually creating that MSG. The reaction with heat and grilling at a high temp to sear it to create like that browning effect. That browning effect is generating a byproduct, or quote unquote a reaction, and it generates glutamate or various versions of glutamic acid and glutamate in the meat. That's what, and then you can distill that, and then you can toss MSG on a piece of bread, and it became the plain bread could be savory. So interesting. All right, I watch a lot of food science. It's food right now is like some science, some artwork. Art forms are nice and enjoyable. Anyways, I still don't know which bad they're referring to here. How about we're gonna go with悪い。
医者、体調はどうですか？患者、悪いです。
What are you up to lately,
熱があり
Jazz?
ます。
What have you been up to? Have you been exploring food? It's been a while since I've gone out to social eat. I miss it.
父の書斎にはいつも灰皿とお酒が置いてある。
Oops. What?
電車の中では大きな声で話をしてはいけない。
Oh no.
昨日の誕生日パーティーには結構人が来ました。明日、僕はディズニーシーで楽しむつもりだ。
You kinda injured your foot on New Year Day when you were getting your steps in, so just getting used to the crutches lifestyle for the time being. What? You injured your foot? Whoa. With crutches? Oh, get well soon. You kinda injured? What kinda? Okay, hear me out. What kind of kinda injury would need someone would cause crutches? That doesn't sound like any kind of injury. That sounds fairly serious. Hopefully everything is alright. You didn't break anything or something like that, right? I've injured my foot couple times here and there in my life, but like for me, here's a relative just to get like on the same page here. I don't think I've ever held crutches before. So like that sounds like like relatively speaking, that sounds like anecdotally a very not just a kind of injury. You sound like you're used to this. Have you been injured like this before? I don't think I've ever used crutches before. Hopefully it's not too serious. Turned out it was a fracture. Oh, so you actually fractured something. It didn't feel like it though. Either way, you're letting the foot heal in the cast. Okay, so yeah, for myself, man, that is quite an injury. How long? Okay, New Year's Day, so you got 2 weeks in. How long are you gonna be in that cast, Jazz? Oh no, it's a different type of polite and kind. Which other kind? We got Shinsetsu.
彼女はとても親切なので、私は彼女のことが
Yeah,
好
it's
き
a
だ。
notch too. I need a knowledge tip there.
あなたはサッカーをプレーできますか？
How'd you manage to fracture it? Do you have brittle bones, Jazz? I don't know if that's a thing. I often feel like when people describe how they get their fracture, they certainly range substantially. From today, you'll return to the doctor in about a month. Okay. Yeah, I do not have a lot of experience with knowing like what like fractures, like how long or what's normal or average. I imagine when I turn 60 or 70, perhaps if I'm a little still like a frivolous or something, I might experience something related to my bones. At the moment, I've done some questionable activities in my life, but fairly fortuitous that I have not broken anything yet. At the end.
走るのは疲れるから好きじゃない。
Oh, so this is your first time. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you'll have to give me a hot take on what's your first time, how after the experience when you recover and all that.
上司がこの髪は環境に優しいと言っていた。
What is it like so far? Like how have you managed with your last 2 weeks? Like it's hear me out. I have read a lot of behavioral studies that deal with like the aftermath of your first injury, your like the psychosomatic part of it, the yips, right? Like sometimes you get the yips. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this term, but it has like performance anxiety. So the first time you like injure yourself really like crucially in a way that limits one's motion, and then when it comes off, right, you might start to feel like concerns, right? Concerns for walking. Like I have had injuries, but not like a bone injury. Like for example, there was a time when I started earlier when I started running, I developed like shin splints. And each time I go out each day, that first couple minutes, I'm always concerned, like, is this going to be painful, right? Like, so why do I feel this pain? So you have like performance anxieties where like, well, it might not be that because your bones are not ready or your body is not ready, but your mental mind is like, oh man, but I could injure myself again, or like it could get worse. That situation. That's always something on my mind when I'm thinking about people being injured for the first time or getting sick for the first time. The first time you get food poisoning, ooh, that is a discussion topic right there. To tie it back to the first comment about when we were talking about food. We were talking about food in a celebratory and a discovery way. Boy howdy, I can tell you. If someone is like exploring food and they're like kind of skittish about food and their like first couple experiences and one of them is food poisoning, yeah, they're not gonna, it takes like maybe years to recover from that feeling that whatever the next thing you eat might give you food poisoning. I'm not sure how broken bones will affect like how often bones affect other people. I always felt like when a part recovers, you're like, do you bounce back or do you feel more fragile than ever? You know, the common idiom is like, oh, if you fracture a bone, it'll heal back and be stronger than before, right? That situation, I don't know how true that is. Your mind might get stronger than before, and your tolerance might be. But I'm not sure about the literal nature of like your bones or like your muscles, like tearing your muscle, right? That can arguably be also causing performance anxiety. I'm thinking more from like an athletic standpoint. Not that I'm an athlete, but injuries like bone injuries and muscle injuries are often collected from athletes because they are more prone to encounter these things. Unlike myself, I did some crazy things or things that would likely increase my rate of injury, but I didn't do them long enough to encounter those injuries. When the injury happened in the early morning, the only thing you were thinking about was blood related. Oh, okay, because you felt lightheaded and you only get lightheaded when there's a low blood. Ah, I see. So when you limped your way back home, you never thought about your foot bones. That adrenaline. Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to know that you didn't go into any form of shock or anything like that too. Yeah, the blood thing is really interesting. How the body responds. When you break something, you don't necessarily process it yet. Like, you know how I don't know how how movies sometimes like people break something and it's like immediate. A lot of times actually obviously this isn't medical advice or like actual experience, but it is more often than not that when you like see your hand, like your arm just pointing in the other direction, oftentimes your body has a great response in keeping you moving until afterwards. So like the whole adrenaline fight or flight response is really powerful. Especially when you're playing a sport or something. Or like, oh yeah, you know, we're just finishing the match. Meanwhile, this person has like 4 broken ribs or something like that. Crazy. Our body's weird.
先月は週に3回ほどこの喫茶店に通いました。
It's good that you were able to limp back home. Kind of aggressive. Way to go. Usually the shock comes after. Like from blood loss would be the shock, and then the pain sets back in from all the broken. The pain starts flooding back in. Oh, hours.
客寄せ。誰か私たちのお店に来ませんか？
You do anything with your cast?
あなたは飛行機が好き？
Oops. It's speak Japanese.
日本語を話す。
時間がないので映画を半分だけ見ましょ
What color is your cast? No, that's not it. Drawing a blank on slow. Oh no. No, that's not it too. What it was. Mind block! Wait. I had the mind block yesterday too. So what was I thinking yesterday to unblock it? It's not coming unblocked. Oh, okay. It's
僕はメールの返信が遅い人が嫌いだ。
I kept thinking Hosoi, and so Hosoi. So it was a sprain, right? And sprains sometimes result in a bulge, and the bulge was the only thing that was apparent. That's why you thought about veins or muscles instead of bones. I see. Plus, the me never breaking a bone fits your thought process as well. The cast is just normal white. You just leave it be. No shenanigans, huh? You could do like a whole video series of chronicling your first cast experience. This is your first cast experience, Jazz. Are you too old for this? You're like, nah, I'm just over it.
う。僕は歯医者や医者に行くことが嫌いだ。
Technically, it's a first.
あなたは週に何回くらいカフェに行きますか？
私は自分が子供を産むまで子供が好きじゃなかった。
People make videos about their first cast? I don't know. I'm making stuff up as I'm going. But what do nowadays, what do people not make a video of? I'm just saying, like, if you had to ask a question, I think it's more likely that someone has made a video of something than not a video of something. At least I'm being facetious, obviously. It's not the case, but
父はコーヒーが好きだ。
it makes you feel that way, especially when you spend most of your time, I spend most of my time online. So nowadays, you're kind of wondering, what don't they make a video of? Like collectively as people, collectively as humans. Not any particular one person on average, but as a collective. Sweet? Oh, I forgot the E.
甘いものが食べたい。
あなたの好きな花は何ですか？
If no one has made a video of their first cast, you could be the first, Jazz. You could be the trendsetter. You think for you just want to experience it fully and see your own thought process as you go through this thing? Like, be there for yourself sort of thing? Okay. Well, provided that you also have a support system in case you need to get somewhere, right? You're not soloing this in the sense of literally soloing it, are you? You got some backup, yes?
外がムシムシしているので窓を閉めましょう。
Or you'd be like the guy like, no, I don't need any help. Like, but how are you gonna drive with a cast on? Or I don't know if you drive or do things like that, but
この絵は彼のものです。
父の手作りのピザを食べたいです。
and before you just say, nah, that's what quote unquote Amazon's for. Ain't got time to drive to places. We just bring the stuff to me. Do you? You know?
先輩と話すときは尊敬語を使わなくてはならない。
部屋がとても明るい。
僕はイギリスから来た留学生です。
Yeah, see, I immediately think trabajad. Whenever I see work, I just think of trabajad or trabajo. That's wait, what is work? Oh, shigoto.
私は仕事をしていない。
Okay. Don't get me started on casa. Casa? Casa. Casa is umbrella, but casa is house. But house is not house, it's ie or uchi. A place, basho? Oh, that
コ
place.
ップをテーブルの上に置く。
Yeah, I'm placing something on the table. A cup.
友達にペンを返す。
彼女に初めて会う。
最近晴れの日が多いです。
Oh, that's a different type. My boyfriend's attitude is cold. No, you wouldn't be able to use that for physical objects? Really?
彼氏の態度が冷たいです。
You forgetting you can describe attitudes with sumetai. Huh.
私はあそこに住んでいる。
Incidentally, driving is the first thing you have to get used to once your cast is off. Okay. When you can walk again, you're not gonna walk fast right away. You'll take your time. Yeah. Yep. Patience, steady rehabilitation. Don't get caught up in the hustle culture. Like, what's the fastest way to rehabilitate during cast? Run a marathon? I'm kidding. Sometimes rushing recovery is a life lesson in its own nowadays. It's nice that you have a mellow, calm attitude about it. Yeah, you caught me. You like the hustle culture. I'm not sure if you're an athlete or not. Maybe that's what you were doing. Maybe you were on a skateboard doing some extreme bike, like X game level things, and then you got like you fell down on the ground or something. That's your thing. But oftentimes whenever I worry about injury or failure, any form of failure or setbacks, the first thing that your support system, at least people who are around you, I often wonder if people nowadays have support systems around them that would get the person to slow down, because usually the setback that's worse than the first setback is that you get set back because you try to hurry up again. That's like immediately injuring yourself even worse because you want to get back to where you were. And the idea of staying injury free or continuously trying to recover is that time you take slowly recovering, you can learn a lot about how to recover and take care of yourself. So in itself, slowing down isn't quote unquote a waste of time. You can learn a lot and appreciate a lot when you're slowing down. Like, for example, your injury that I usually think about in injury is confidence, right? Like in your head, like if you fail something, the first thing you do is not bounce back and rush into the next thing. So, like both mentally and physically, when you fail something or something is harmed, the first thing you do is to slow down and learn about that process of recovering. Not like rush it ahead and leaps and bounds and whatnot. I think that's a really common response often. Even like failing an exam, for example. If you fail an exam, the first thing you do is you leap into the second exam, like blitz into the second exam without consolidating what happened in the first exam. That's kind of like the analogous but less physical part of things. So it's good that you're gonna take it slowly and you're kind of like focusing on yourself sort of thing and taking it in. When the doctor looked at your x-ray, he looked at you with a goofy smile and he told me specifically that this recovery process will be a test of your patience. Okay. Both mental and physical injuries, I've been around for quite some time, and hopefully you have a great support system around, like people who are encouraging, allow, like you have like a grounded mind of appreciating the moment. I kid you not, sometimes when people get injured, they come out of that injury transformed in a way, because it actually sometimes, if something doesn't get you to slow down, oftentimes your body is the thing that causes you to slow down. Your mind could race far faster than your body. So from time to time, I like this particular movie called Perfect Days, but nowadays the hustle culture is really intense. So whenever you watch like movies and stuff about people taking their time methodically each moment while recovering, injury can lead to those forced moments where you can appreciate moments like that. So perhaps this is your lifetime experience of testing your patience. I'm a very patient person, and not because I grew up with the understanding of patience. I actually, when I was young, I piled on things and went like, I described myself before. I was a candle burning at two ends. I was not only burning at two ends, I was in a volcano ready to erupt and then set on a spaceship into the sun. That's how fast I was burning. So my comments now in my age is not a sudden enlightenment that was void of this life lesson. The reason I say this now was for myself. Anecdotally, I also, maybe it's not a literal fracture or my body giving up in the same way, but my body did give up, like somewhere along the way. Like I fell asleep standing up one time, right? It's one of those things, like I was working really hard sometimes and I would like lose 10 minutes in between places. Like eventually your body does it can be a limiting factor. So it's good that you're level-headed. I like your doctor's humor. Are you close with your doctor? Goofy smile, that's funny. Oh, bullet chain.
この新幹線はとても新しいです。
店のオーナーから私の仕事について嬉しい言葉をもらった。
あ、嬉しい。Interesting.
ジュースを飲む。
Gotta get some stickers for your cast, man. Wait, you know what? You could really like make your doctor's day by like having your cast like come in with some like obscure artifacts attached to it. Sorry. I'm just thinking of shenanigans you can pull. You know that story. Oops, that story.
あなたはその話を知っている？
あなたには大嫌いなものがありますか？
ここは母の部屋だ。
Hello there, Aqua. Hello again. Hello.
ここが私のアパートだ。
室内では靴を脱いでください。
Warms up. And you really do like Atsukunaru? Oh, wait, yeah, actually. Oh, are they doing like... Oh, warm up and then... Okay, yeah. I thought that... Oops, I missed one.
体が温かくなる。
First time you've seen that doctor, but he seems like he's got enough experience to tell the sort of person a patient is just from the injury alone. I can imagine. Yeah. You're secretly surprised that the doctor can tell that you're a hustler just based on your fracture. Would it be too bold? Did we have this discussion already? Did I talk about hustle culture and how I feel about the quality of life that people have that are caught up in the hustle? I think we've had this discussion before. It's probably one of the first topics we talked about. Yeah. Hustle culture is fantastic when it works. And then there's always time for not hustle culture. The balance of life. Life really brings different beauties and things, both in a hustling way and in a non-hustling. Maybe last year or so, not sure exactly about what though. Yeah, I'm not quite sure if I remember what the topic that triggered the hustle culture. It's probably the internet hustle culture. Usually I branch off in internet hustle culture, but it would have to be a very specific topic that triggered it. And I don't remember what the context is. Yeah. I try to do my best to get people to breathe. The reason I tend to say that is because there's plenty of hustle culture. So it's kind of like there's plenty of sweet foods out there. You can go grab your Oreo cookies or your double fudge chocolate chip cookies. But hey, there are other things other than chocolate chip cookies. There's, cookies that taste like dirt. I'm kidding. I have no idea. Like a slightly bitter, salty cookie or something like that. It's nice to not go too hard on any one thing. The road? Dodo? Okay. Probably Michi.
試験会場への道を調べなくちゃ。
You remember one time you talked about a leaderboard system though? Oh, yes. Right. The leaderboard system. I like to think the leaderboard system probably had to do with a video game. I don't want to say it's P5X. It might have been Duolingo related. How am I doing today? I'm doing pretty well, Aqua. Oh, which by the way, if it's not, I'm not talking with myself, but I stream simultaneously on YouTube and Twitch, and Jazz is talking about their first experience with a bone fracture. So we're kind of talking about that. So right now we've been chatting about that. How are you doing? How was what did you do between the last time we spoke? Which was yesterday.
新聞を読む。
説明が下手ですみません。
We're almost done with our Bunpro session, so then
こ
we
の
move
車
on
は
to
青だ。
Hansa Hero.
姉、弟にひらがなを教えなくちゃ。
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a crazy person. I usually let other people figure it out that I'm not talking to myself. It's usually pretty funny, but I figure this time I will go ahead of it. On the YouTube side, it's kind of humorous. Here's something funny that I observed. Whenever it's a Twitch person, right, versus a YouTube person, if the person that I stopped by, their first encounter with me was on YouTube, they would think that I'm talking to myself. Or it's very hard, and I'm not saying this is a bad or a good thing, because it's actually very hard to know if I'm talking to myself or I'm talking to another person. But on the Twitch side of things, it's automatically assumed a lot of times that there's some other person at the other end. And they usually ask immediately, "Oh, are you talking to someone on YouTube?" So I don't know why this is the case at the moment. There's not enough converging evidence, but this does occur. And yes, I do talk to myself a lot. So I have internal monologues with myself. So for the record, it would be difficult to know unless you are simultaneously on both the platforms at the same time to be certain. You didn't do much because you're a little sick? Oh, I hope you're getting well. Like, light sick? You made dinner and studied language today at least. Very nice, very nice. What do you have for dinner when you're sick? And hopefully it's like a, you know, a light cold and not something... Do you get sick often? That's what you thought too at first when a YouTuber was conversing with you? That there was someone else on the line? Yeah. It's really funny. I don't know if that's a behavioral response. Like Twitch often does give you the idea that it's very normal to be conversing with someone, right? And then on YouTube, it's usually post-edited stuff, so it's more like internal monologue. So there is some expectation when you're on different platforms, and that could be subconscious, right? Like you're so normalized to it. But I could say nearly 90% of people I meet on Twitch immediately assumes I'm talking to someone else. So they would go about it. Like the longest time I've ever had was, I think someone listened on and off for like 5 or 6 months. And because of someone asking, because someone was asking at the other end, it dawned on them that, wait a minute, you were talking to yourself the whole time. Or most of the time. It's like, yeah, I was talking to myself most of the time. Like, despite all of this saying, I don't actually talk to people very, very regularly. Like 50% of the time when I'm talking, I'm actually recording myself practicing something. Like practicing saying something or recording something. As opposed to actually have a dialogue with someone. But when it becomes really obvious is when I someone already said this, but I like look, like it makes it very clear, like the way my behavior is like I would be deliberately looking at something. So it's fairly clear if someone was like looking at the way I'm looking, I would be looking at something. But usually most people are listening for the most part, so you wouldn't be able to see it anyways. You're not sure? You've only used Twitch to find live streaming? You don't use YouTube to watch live streams? Yeah. When you're on Twitch, man. Just a cold, you think? That's good. You were sick a few months ago. You're used to it? Okay. You made breakfast for dinner? Ooh, what is breakfast for dinner where you're from, Aqua? So you said dinner. So I would imagine you're like plus or minus 3 hours. Or maybe minus 3 hours. Plus or minus 3 hours. Like within 3 hours max. Dinner. Breakfast for dinner. I miss breakfast for dinner. Okay, hear me out. I'm very old, Aqua. I'm not sure how old you are. I'm very old and I grew up in the United States. And I can tell you now, whenever I have to work after midnights, when I was a teenager, I worked after midnights. At 3 a.m., you just stop by a Denny's or like a dive or a diner, slap back like 3 slaps of pancakes, some hash browns, some scrambled eggs, and like a biscuit. Oof, that's breakfast or dinner. It's okay, I'm not like obese or overweight. It's just the idea is, you work hard and then pancakes and eggs, solid. No sausage, huh? Oh, some maple sausage. I still like some days when here's a less hustle culturally thing. When someone says like, oh yeah, we're just driving around like 6 a.m., 6 a.m. we have to get there. My first thought is, man, it's like 4 a.m. You want to just stop by a diner and grab like a Cinnabon next to like stop in an IHOP. It's like, dude, IHOP's so washed out, dude. Like, it's not even rich, And my first thought is like, but it's charming. That's kind of the type of person I am. So usually most things in life aren't like too good for me or not. So whenever I think about breakfast and dinner, it's kind of like that, where when I think about like pancakes and eggs, I can already hear the keyboard warrior stopping by saying like, dude, pancakes and eggs, that's so like boomer Americana diabetes alert situation. And my first thought is like, yeah, but you don't know what the context of that pancakes and eggs. My association for pancakes and eggs or like dinner, like breakfast for dinner, is like, man, I'm either really tired, perhaps the person is ill or something. You just get something really hearty. You got a beverage with your pancakes and eggs? It's kind do you guys ever get this where when someone says do you ever assume when someone asks like, what did you eat, that excludes the beverage? I feel like I find myself asking that more and more often. Like, hey, what did you have for dinner? And then they would say what they ate specifically, but they don't talk about their beverage. Beverages are pretty good. You almost exclusively drink water? Oh, another exclusively drinking water person. There is another goober here that I met recently. Mika, like the last 2 or 3 months. Yeah, she's a exclusively water drinker too. I have my times. I use complimentary things. So like a slightly sweetened beverage with something salty, foods. A slightly salted beverage, like a soup. Like well, we're not talking about like just water itself beverage, but like soups as well. So I would have like a salty soup with like a sweetened meal. You like to start drinking tea more often? Interesting. Yeah. That's kind of my thought about beverages. You can elevate things as well with beverages. I know water is fantastic. Water is great. Water is fantastic. And at the same time, food, when you're eating for a meal, like when you're hydrating, oh yeah, water's king. I know a bit about that. But there's a lot of wonderful. We were talking about Jazz and I was talking about food earlier. So one of the wonderful things about like liquids is that you can really amp up the experience. So I do enjoy like something sweet with my tea, and the sweetness of the thing that you're eating doesn't have to be that sweet because you're drinking tea. Tea, if you have unsweetened tea, the thing that you're eating that's sweet can be like barely sweet. Like you could eat bread and it would taste sweet because of the amylase in your saliva. It could start tasting sweet because you're having tea with it, something bitter. So it's really fun to contrast. Like I like my lemon, like some lemon flavored solution, maybe slightly sweetened, and then with something that is bitter and salty, and that transforms the thing. There are obviously cultural examples of this, right? That aren't exactly the healthiest thing, of course, but like beer and cheese, or wine and cheese, for example, cheese and bread, even slight things like salt on ice cream, right? Flaky salt on something sweet. So the sweetness thing can be less sweet if there's salt in it. Things become salty. Or here's one that is very interesting, and it requires two things. Sprinkle some slight salt on a watermelon. That is interesting. It was a wonderful thing. And then there's temperature as well. If your tea is hot and you're eating something that is slightly cooled, it creates like another sensation. And then we have crunchy, like textures as well. If your tea is a liquid, right, it's smooth, you can have something crunchy, or then something that's crunchy next to something that's kind of soft or chewy. Oh, there's so many ways to make your eating experience without having to change up like how expensive things is, right? Like for example, for eggs, my family typically have over easy eggs. So that's when you cook the egg enough, the egg white's enough, but the center is still runny, right? And then that runny is used to be mixed with your rice, and your rice is dry and is semi chewy, which is then placed next to broccoli, which is blanched. So it's crunchy and hard, right? Crunchy-ish, hard, and it's bitter. So in order to counter that, you can have a slightly sweetened beverage to complement the slightly bitter broccoli, and then the creamy egg yolk with the chewier rice, and then the hardened egg white. Pretty great balance of stuff without necessarily doing. And then you can use kosher salt right on top. Sprinkle a bit of kosher salt and you're good to go. You're from California. A lot of people like dipping their fries in their shakes. Oh yeah, fries and shakes. Like, it's not as widely popular over here on the East Coast, but I used to do that with like a Wendy's shake. and the dish that I described is what my family eats most of the time. Like some sort of hard, slightly largely unadulterated green. So broccoli would be a great one, which is really hard, crunchy, and it can be slightly bitter, right? When you blanch it, it's trying to like get the slight bitterness out, but the bitterness can be used to accent something else, so that you can, every time you take a broccoli, anything that's like sweet or even slightly sweetened tastes sweeter. So it's a great way to cut back. Like, it's another way to like really enjoy food without like putting like sweet on sweet, like tasteless on tasteless. Like, I often wondered why when someone thinks of broccoli, they think of a whole dish with vegetables, as opposed to like broccoli next to some dates, you know, like or a fig, which then the fig will taste sweeter next to the broccoli. So you have all these like different blends where I'm thinking of this Chinese like glutinous rice with warm fruits in them. So glutinous rice with warm fruits next to some vegetables, and then with a cup of tea. So then you kind of just, obviously I'm naming basically cultural staples in other places. Like for Chinese dim sum tends to have all these elements put together. You tried dipping fries in shakes too? It was all right. I think it's pretty interesting. I think the fries, it's a dependency on the fries. And the shake, I think overall my combination would be like a frosty shake. Not necessarily like the milky one, but yeah, I've done that quite a bit. My combination of hot and cold that I, as a Americana dish, would be vanilla ice cream. I know vanilla is pretty generic, but vanilla ice cream on a apple crisp. And that apple crisp is like warm. It's like steaming. Steaming apple crisp. An apple crisp would be like an apple pie. Like a cut of an apple pie. So they take a scoop of ice cream, it's like right on top of an apple crisp. Classic diner food. Classic home food. So whenever like dessert rolls around, it'll be ice cream on top of something warm. We have warm and cold. This is sweet on sweet, hence the dessert. But I would say on top of this, it's not as popular, but instead of apple crisp, carrot cake. And it would be like the less sweetened carrot cake. So no icing on the carrot cake, just straight up carrot cake on a vanilla. That's a nice balance for me, as opposed to like sometimes apple crisp can be very sugary, right? So you're adding sugar on sugar, but the vanilla has a different contrast with the apple. Alternatively, you can take something that's a little bit more bitter, or like something less sweet, like a pumpkin pie or a carrot cake, and have vanilla ice cream. And you can slightly warm the pumpkin pie and the carrot cake. I'm describing kind of like the closest thing to some Chinese like confections combining. Oh man, egg tart. Here's like this is kind of slightly blasphemous because I'm like American Chinese. So you take an egg tart, like a piping hot egg tart from like a Chinese bakery, and then have chilled whipped cream. Either you get it from a bucket or like whip it yourself, chilled, and then place it on top of a egg tart. So the egg tart would look something like this, right? Hang on. Draw an egg tart. So egg tarts typically look like this, right? There's like crimped, and then this would be yellow in the middle, and then they would come up, they would look like a cart, like a little cup, like a Reese's cup, and then you have your dollop of whipped cream. That looks like poo. I know whipped cream kind of looks like poo, but really excellent contrast between like cold and warm. And then the egg tart is kind of like smooth in the middle. You go, okay, now have fun fooding. all right, yes, take care, and take care of yourself and stay safe. Don't go and flip out and run a sprint or something on your cast. All right. Computer, are we doing the full computer? Cone. Oh, oh. How do I do this? Nope.
このコンピューターはいくら？
I'm making you hungry again. All right. We'll cut back on the food thing. How are you with food? What do you snack on, Aqua? What do you snack on? Kaz is heading off for the day.
学校に走っていく。
母が子供たちに、夏は家族全員で沖縄に行きましょう。
明日から夏休みです。
あなたの妹は犬が好きですか？
Day off.
明日は休みだ。
母に手紙を書く。
僕は厳しい人より優しい人の方が好きだ。
You usually make toast or eat some fruits? Nice. Mangoes? Oh, yeah. Mangoes. Have you ever had mango sticky rice? That's a good example of a, like, fusion of, like, different textures. Mango sticky rice. Ooh. Gotta go to, like, a Thai place for some mango sticky rice. Okay.
そのハンバーグおいしい？
先生、
That's fine.
トイレに行きたいが、近くにはトイレがない。
Yeah, mango sticky rice, glutinous rice, sweetened, gelatinous. It's kind of like a risotto, like a risotto for the mango thing using glutinous rice, and then you have mango cut and placed on top of the glutinous sweetened rice. It's a common dessert in Thai, and it's usually served because to complement like spicy, hyper spicy, savory, salty dishes, and sometimes fatty dishes in Thai cooking. So then the sweeter, savory, and sugary thing will complement it, and it's creamy in own nature, so complements really well spicy foods and fatty foods. Casual.
僕の名前はたかしです。
自信満々の写真家。
What type
俺
of
が撮った写真は全部最高だろう。
what type of background are you from, Aqua? That like the different type of cuisines you're exposed to.
朝に本を読む。
これは映画館です。
Cricket.
この道は曲がっている。
Playing in the yard.
弟が庭で遊んでいる。
図書館に行く。
Aneto. That's the first thing I thought about. Aneto, even though it's Ichigatsu.
私の誕生日は1月です。
Oh, Spanish. What am I gonna do with Spanish? Whoops. Tienda. No es. No es tienda. No es la tienda. No está. A la tienda. Actually, I wonder how you quote things. Do you use es or estar for a quote? That's not mise, so what the heck is this? A shop?
あなたのお気に入りの店は何？
It must have been a typo. Oh, my M might have not actuated. Whoops.
昨日デパートで新しいカバンを買いました。
Alright, that's a wrap for our reviews. Alright. 400 items exactly. Okay. I don't think we had too much of a problem today. Nothing really sticks out outside of the words like, I guess Yasui. Yasui was interesting. Getting hung up on osoi a little bit. Nothing too dramatic out of the ordinary. Yeah, Yasui was weird. My salary was low. Your mom is white and your dad is Middle Eastern, but you basically just eat American food? I see. I mean, being in California though, there's such a variety. Gotta hit up some of like, I don't know, get a nice birria or something like that, right? Like a taco format, something like that. I'm thinking SoCal more than like middle, but more so SoCal. Some Tex-Mex of some sort. All right, this is a wrap for Bunpro today. I don't think I have very much to say, right? Yeah, that's a wrap for our Bunpro session today. If you're gonna watch this later, arigatou gozaimasu. As always, feel free to follow along, pick up Bunpro for yourself. You're always welcome to come on by, yap, discuss. I have something to say about most things. I think in my spry 40-ish years of life, we've accumulated enough things to talk about, right? So definitely feel free. Keep each other motivated, encouraged, right? Attentive in our own lives, and maybe with that, be able to slow down and be interested in other people's lives. Until then, right? Minasan mata ne. Mite kurete arigato, right? See you guys next time. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna get up, take a quick bathroom break, stretch a little bit, and then I'll be back for Hanzahiro. So until later, there are many cuisines here. Personally, you love Indian and Thai food the most, probably. We'll have to talk about that when I come back. All right, be right back.